All right, then let's go.
Alicia here, out for a walk with my dog Reenie. Reenie's my little scraggly muppet. She's a terrier schnauzer mix, and she loves to roll in the grass. This is Sustainable Events Dog Walk, a short podcast from Positive Impact Event Consulting, where you can get a quick nugget about sustainability for your events and event business while on a walk with Alicia and her dog Reenie. Sustainability is a big project, but we'll get there together, one little step at a time. Hello, here we are again. Today we're returning to my mini-series, One Small Change Today. The premise of One Small Change Today is that I present you an events professional, business owner, business employee, independent contractor, massive corporation boss, with an idea for one change that you can make immediately that will begin to have a real impact on sustainability. This is an exercise to help us remember that it's about making small intentional changes and making them routine to get that progress. It's not about sweeping solutions that are impractical and not bite-sized and not attainable. For this week's One Small Change Today, I am going back to a topic that I haven't covered in a little while, which I do love, which is behavioral psychology, behavioral economics. And so rather than fitting into a category of event planning or execution, and rather than falling into one of the four pillars, which are environmental, personal health and well-being, social and community, and economic, this is going to be a personal change. For your own behavior, if you lead a team, it's going to be something that you lead by example. So let's dive in. Your one small change today is to stop acting under the assumption that sustainability is already covered or handled by someone else in the chain of events. Stop assuming that any given vendor is already handling their own sustainability. Stop assuming that the planner is in charge solely of the sustainability. No more assumptions, the sustainability is handled. Now, I have data from a couple of international event surveys that I'm gonna share with you. I covered very recently how sustainability is not about being a buzzword. It's a real perpetual situation, and it's a good business and world initiative that we should continue focusing on. And the reason I bring up this as your change today that you implement now and continue in perpetuity is something in psychology called the bystander effect. And it's happened to lots of us. The bystander effect is a premise in psychology that one is less likely to take action on a perceived concern while in a group because the responsibility for taking action psychologically is sort of averaged out among the number of people we perceive as being participants. So this usually has to do with crimes or helping people in the research. If you hear someone scream, do you help them or not? If you're alone and there's no one around, you're more likely to feel the urge to help or the concern that no one else will help if you don't. Whereas if someone is screaming and you're in a group of 50 people, you feel 1/50th the responsibility to do something, and sort of the assumption of, oh, someone else has it handled, or no one else is acting concerned, so I don't need to act concerned, sort of takes over. And this is a really unhelpful psychological tool, especially if you identify as a leader, which I'm optimistic that you do. And so what can end up happening so easily, and the reason I picked this as my one small change, is that clearly we have a bit of a concern with the industry conversation around sustainability, that since there is a lot of conversation influencing people to feel like it's normal and important to participate in sustainability and sustainable choices, that any given professional may have the sensation that it's covered. Someone else is doing it, even though they know they're not, and therefore they don't need to do it. But I would love if you, since you are wise enough and interested enough in being a leader in your field to listen to this, discard that entire line of thinking. Because sustainability is not covered. We are very much in the early stages. It is not safe to assume that this is sort of a systematically under control initiative. And also, as aforementioned, if you do consider yourself a leader, you should be looking for things like best practices in sustainability to make what you're doing the front of event development. So I mentioned some statistics. This is through a UK company in combination with the Amex Global Business Travel report that comes out every year. And Event Decision specializes in collecting and analyzing sustainability statistics for events. And here is their framing in combination with that Amex GBT report, that 25% of event professionals currently track emissions. Only 25% of event professionals currently track emissions. That means 3 in 4 are not tracking. 28% plan to prioritize improvements to sustainability metrics in 2026. That's 2/3 don't have that on their list. Are you seeing how this math, you can read it the optimistic way, or you can read it the how far do we have to go way. And the last stat I have from this little article is that 38% of the respondents have sustainability written into policy, but 28% still classify it as a pending initiative, waiting for something such as cost reduction or attendee engagement to prioritize it. And as we've talked about many times, they're misunderstanding this in complete reverse. So this Amex Global report is surveys from event professionals in 8 countries, so it's not isolated on just the Americans, North Americans, or the UK and Europe, who have more mandates for sustainability. It's generalized more globally. So hopefully this helps you to break that bystander effect a bit. If you want to be in that quarter, in that 1/3 of event professionals that are leading the way, if you want to be practicing now so that you are not falling behind as other people get on board and understand and utilize their sustainability opportunities, this is how you have to do it. You have to stop assuming that someone else has it handled. Now, when I say that, I don't mean that you need to take the weight of the world on your shoulders. Go back to the last 40 episodes of this podcast that talk about how once you acknowledge that this is something you want to do, you're only expected to make small moves in that direction. It's not about net zero. It's about consistently doing something. It's about progress over perfection. It's about paying attention. So don't take this as a prompt to go directly into overwhelm, but rather to permanently add sustainability to your to-do list. No matter what part of the event process you work in, these are important questions, and it's not safe to assume that someone else has asked them. So there you have your one small change today. I would be interested to know whether you feel intimidated by this change, or if it feels like genuinely a small change that you can be working on and adopting. Mental changes are hard, but I believe in you. We've all had to change our mindset before. And if you have any questions or would like to hear about anything in particular on the show, please use the contact information and Google form in the description of this podcast. And until next week, remember what they say about assumptions, and I'll be back then with more event sustainability tips, tricks, ideas, inspiration, psychology, recommendations, and referrals. Thanks for joining me on Sustainable Events Dog Walk. I'm Alicia Druby, founder of Positive Impact Event Consulting, and I want to help you integrate sustainability into your event business so you're ready to make every event you work on more sustainable. See you next time.